The regularly scheduled semi-monthly Town of Tuxedo Board meeting. I am Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichgott. Supervisor English is somewhere in the wilds of Scotland, and Councilperson Michelle Lindsay is dialing in from parts unknown. And we will get started. It is, wait a minute, the official time is 7:01. And as usual, if you will rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I better keep my glasses on my face or this is going to take a very long time. Okay, we have 5 items on the agenda for this evening. A resolution to establish the hourly wage for seasonal traffic guards. A resolution to appoint seasonal traffic guards. A resolution determining the validity of a petition for a proposition to increase the 2024 budgetary allocation for the Tuxedo Park Library to be included on the November 2023 ballot. A resolution to consider bid proposals received for police vehicle outfitting. And a resolution to allow Tuxedo to participate in the 2024 through 2026 CDBG Urban, County, and Home Consortium. And then we will have a relatively short, I believe, discussion, continuing our discussion on the local law for short-term rentals, and then the usual town business. So, are there any comments on agenda items from the audience? I'll start with the room. No. Anybody in the TV audience have comments on agenda items? I guess you can unmute yourself if you do, or put a hand up. Okay, we will move on then. So, let's see, I better keep score. All right, item the first, a resolution to establish an hourly wage for seasonal traffic guards. The seasonal traffic guards are adjunct to the police force, and the intention is that they are going to help direct traffic and enforce traffic regulations, specifically for the Renaissance Festival, to free up police officers to do other duties as well. And the money for this is going to be fully paid for by the Renaissance Festival, so it is not a burden on the town. So I will read a motion. On a motion made by me, the town board of the town of Tuxedo establishes the hourly rate for part-time seasonal traffic guard position, civil service job title 1705, at $25 an hour. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Maria. Any discussion?
So these part-time employees will report to the police department, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. That's my other question.
Work in the direction of whoever the officer in charge
Officer in charge, right.
duty is.
And their duties are just really old traffic, there's no,
They are to direct traffic. They're not parking attendants for the fair, and they're not full police officers.
right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Michelle as well. Thank you. 1. Excellent. All right, agenda item number 2, a resolution to appoint seasonal traffic guards. On a motion made by myself that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby appoints the part-time seasonal traffic guard, civil service job title 1705, the individuals listed below. And I apologize if I butcher anybody's name. One Daniel Francis, Joseph Dvorsky, Sean Mallon, John Michael Ryan, and John Trezino. I assume related, but that's okay. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Deirdre. Any discussion? I will say that I know that all these people have been interviewed and vetted and like that.
Okay.
Michelle? I'll take that. Take that as, you good? You're on mute, okay, but she's good. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent. All right. Okay, well, that's what happens in the park. When the weather's rainy, when it's too sunny, between the hours of 4 and 4. All right, agenda item number 3, resolution determining the validity of a petition for a proposition to increase the 2024 budgetary allocation for the Tuxedo Park Library to be included on the November 2023 ballot. Oh, it's a lot to read. Okay. Would you like to make an introduction? No, yeah, it's your, yeah, it's your thing, right? Better than me explaining it and butchering it. Okay. Remember, the microphone doesn't sound like you're loud in here. It's for the people at home. So introduce yourself, please, and then.
Hello, my name is Diane Loomis. I'm the director of the Tuxedo Park Library. The item on the agenda today is just part of the process to put the library's budget on the November ballot. This is a process we've gone through multiple years, and I guess tonight we are asking you to approve the petitions and give Marissa the okay to kick it up to the county. We followed the process that we've done in multiple years. We've exceeded the number of signatures we need. And like I said, this is the final step in the process until November.
Exactly. Thank you. That was perfect. And then in November, the residents get to vote on whether or not you get the money.
Correct.
All right. I read the title already. So, whereas the educational law, section 259, parenthesis 1, authorizes the town to vote taxes for library purposes, and whereas the town board is the entity which can vote on such taxes unless the procedures for petition in subsection B, parenthesis 1, are implemented, and whereas the town board has received and reviewed a petition pursuant to education law, section 259, parentheses 1, parentheses B, parentheses 1, which petition has been endorsed by the Board of Trustees of the library, and whereas the petition has been reviewed by town officials, now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Tuxedo, Orange County, New York, as follows. 1, the petition is properly executed by qualified voters in excess of the total number of votes required by Education Law 259, parenthesis 1, amended by Law 2021, Chapter 70, parentheses 1, and has been properly endorsed by the Board of Trustees of the Tuxedo Park Library. 2, the town clerk is directed to forward an abstract of the proposition annexed hereto to the County Board of Elections, so the same may be set forth on the ballot of the next general election of the town of Tuxedo on November 7th, 2023. 3, the proposition shall read, shall the annual contribution of the town of Tuxedo for the operating budget of the Tuxedo Park Library be increased by $17,548 to the sum of $618,150 annually. 4, if such proposition is approved by the majority of the voters voting thereon at the general election, the amount so authorized shall be the budgetary appropriation for the town budget adopted subsequent to such election pursuant to section 259, parentheses 1, parentheses B, parentheses 1. The town clerk shall publish and post notice of the election at least 10 days prior thereto. I've made a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any
Unless Michelle
discussion?
wants a second. I just have to say something.
Yes.
About the library, that was a huge help. So our town camp took a little while to get for the high school to get the proper, um, the, permissions for the camp leaders to use the Wi-Fi. And so you saved us for 2 weeks by letting us check out one of your hotspots. That was amazing. They worked great. We thank you so much because we have an app and it needs to work on Wi-Fi and we didn't have it. So it went back, it's working now. So
Excellent.
we returned it to you. So thank you.
Ms. Deirdre,
No.
you good? Michelle,
I
you
didn't
got
get to the
anything?
Library.
You're good. Okay. Then, may I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle says aye. And then there's a sub-motion. The town supervisor and the town clerk are authorized to take all actions necessary and proper to carry out such election under law, which I will also move. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anybody have anything they want to say to this one?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Not, okay, Michelle is in, good. All right, congratulations, now you gotta make your case to the people.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, moving right along. Agenda item number 4, a resolution to consider a bid proposal received for police vehicle outfitting, which I don't have the
I think it
number in
was
front of me.
sent to us. We got it.
We got it, yes, I was gonna read it.
Yeah.
But, no, this is, the motion is to, we got one bid. The motion is, we got the one bid from the supplier who usually provides this equipment for the police. These are the required lights, sirens, bells and whistles for the 2 new police cars that we have just purchased. And the bid came in at, I'm sorry, Marissa, can you tell me the number?
39,946.72.
Or I could just read my
That's for both.
agenda and know that information. Thank you very much.
But that's for both, right?
That
It
is
was
for-
like about 18,000.
Yes.
Yeah,
And this is within the number that we thought it was going to be.
you're right.
Okay, then I will make a motion that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby accepts the bid proposal for police vehicle outfitting submitted by Emergency Vehicle Specialists 24/7 in the amount of, there it is, $39,946.72. May I have a second?
Michelle?
Michelle seconds. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. And Michelle says so. You can see all the participants too, right? Okay. Excellent. Okay. One more. We just gave away money. Now here's our chance to get some money. A resolution to allow Tuxedo to participate in the 2024-2026 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Urban, County, and Home Consortium. This is just what the name sounds like. These are block grants by the county with federal money to help with all sorts of projects. Over the past 5 years, over $270,000 of CDBG funds have been awarded to projects located in, it says in our municipality, but that's actually close to true. We last got a grant to do the ADA improvements here in town hall.
Oh, okay.
And there are other monies. The way the grants work, usually the only grants that we are eligible for, the town is, because of our median income, are grants for ADA kind of projects or projects for the aging, silver dollars kind of.
Okay.
So, and it's a very long resolution, which I'm not gonna read all of, because I don't think we need to.
Nope.
Basically, the resolution is to, authorize the supervisor to renew and amend or execute the agreement with the County of Orange to participate in the Orange County Urban County Entitlement Community and Development Block Grant Program. We'll make sure that the full text is in the minutes. Amy, that's okay? Thank you. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its enactment as provided by law. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Does anybody have any discussion? Michelle? No? No, you're still on mute somehow. Maybe it's at our end.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yay.
Starting to think that you might be.
Yeah,
in
no,
Boston.
I think we've exhausted the, am I coming in twice?
No, you're
No,
I think we've exhausted the ADA at Town Hall. We could look at other ADA projects or projects for seniors. Other municipalities have gotten lots of money for seniors, so that might be something we look into next.
Yep,
Yeah.
good.
absolutely. Okay. Then I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. I'm getting nervous. This is going too quickly and fast. I don't believe we have any other business to attend to this evening besides our discussion. Does anybody know of anything? Okay.
Well, I'm a little confused as to what action we need to take for this wetlands permit. So I don't know if that's something we need to do before the public hearing on August 1st that John Banyo told us about. So I would like some clarification on what they need from us.
The planning board.
So anyway, I don't know if that's new
I don't-
business or next meeting.
We can touch on it now for sure. There is a procedure specified in the town code.
Right.
They have to provide an application. There was some difficulty in locating the text of that application earlier, but that's being resolved between the building department. I don't think we need any particular action for the planning board to act.
Well, I'd like some clarification on that, so is the situation that we did have a wetlands permit application and it has been found, or is it being drafted?
That's a reasonable question. I don't know if anybody has an answer to it.
I was told, because I did some investigation, that the planning board is using the Orange County specifications for wetlands for the codes. So I don't think that they were using I don't think there's anything in Tuxedo. I think they're using Orange County wetlands protocols.
To identify the wetlands or to,
For
the
the
application text?
Yep, for the application.
I don't know.
But that's from a conversation with somebody on the planning board without having anything official, just to let
Okay.
you guys know. It's just a conversation. But we
So,
probably should have something in our code about wetlands.
we do.
Yeah,
We already do have something in our code about wetlands.
yeah.
It's just the application, right? The only thing that was missing is that we didn't have an application
The application
Drafted.
form.
form,
right, couldn't
right?
be located.
So that means that they were following, so I guess because we didn't have an application, it never went to the planning board from our code, but it went to the planning board on Orange County code specifications.
No, we-
Because if they didn't have an application, how would did they apply
They haven't, they're working on filling out the application. It's part of their requirements for their special permit.
Okay,
The code is town code.
so, okay,
They needed the actual form to fill in the information to do the application.
so now that they fill out the form,
Mhm.
it's gonna go to the planning board, and the
Yes.
planning board is gonna review the wetlands application
Yes,
based on Tuxedo code.
yes,
Right.
Okay, so it hasn't been approved, it's gonna be reviewed.
yes.
Okay,
Hasn't been approved yet.
okay, so that was my question.
We also need to, one thing we don't have is the application fee. I know Deborah specifically said we have, that's one of those permit fees that hasn't come up before. So we need to think about that. And obviously, we're not ready to vote on that tonight, but we need to figure out if they're having a public hearing on August 1st, how soon they would need to know what that application fee is. I mean, I think we have to vote on it, so I don't know if we need another special meeting to move it along.
I guess
I don't
by
know.
default, right now, the fee is zero. It's just part of the rest of their permit application
Ah, okay.
paperwork.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be. Also, I don't know if they need, I guess this will come up in the public hearing, if they need a variance because they're planning to do some, they say it is going to be pervious pavers, but in the buffer. So, there's just a lot of questions on this
Well,
that I would
those
suggest we
questions-
get.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just suggest we get answers to all these questions and what do other municipalities charge for wetland permit fees? So seems to me we need a little bit more information
Yes.
because it's our I feel so responsible. This is a delicate area, sensitive area right next to state parkland. So
Yes.
anyway.
And
questions?
under jurisdiction of the DEC and Army Corps and
Yeah.
all the rest of it. This isn't the Wild West, so.
Well, I beg to differ. Have you gone down Sterling Mine Road? 246 acres have been clear cut. So
Yeah, but that's not.
I know, but all I'm saying is that my trust in people being able to, whether it's in Sloatsburg, whether it's in Rampo, whether it's in Tuxedo, 246 acres were just clear cut. And that is extremely disturbing to me and all of my neighbors. So, take a ride, take a look, and it's really disturbing. So anytime I hear about wetlands, and especially in that area, I'm very sensitive because I hear every day about that. And I'm seeing rattlesnakes everywhere. It's really a problem. But, so, I don't trust, I'm somewhat suspicious of how that actually happened. Apparently, there was no permit. So we need to be somewhat careful.
Okay.
And I guess my concern is, even though they're pervious pavers, in the fact that they're in the buffer, we don't know how close to the wetlands this is gonna happen. It's all very concerning to me.
Right, although those questions are under the purview of the planning board, right? I mean, they're doing the site plan review and all the rest of it.
Right.
If they need a variance, then it goes to
The zoning board.
zoning board of appeals,
Right.
or board of zoning appeals, or whichever way.
I
we're
I guess-
putting it together this week.
CBA.
I was told that the site plan does have significant plantings and also proposed live walls on the outside of the plant, which would be nice.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if, I've been to some of the planning board discussions, and our planning board is being very, have been really, strict with this particular applicant for that reason. So I feel, I feel good that they're, protecting the town they've had to come back over and over again to change things, to make them,
Yes, and
more suitable for what the town wants.
the BZA has not been easy on them either.
No.
For the variances that they have requested, so.
Okay, so I guess it's up to, we just have to figure out the application fee.
Yes,
I don't know if we could do that offline in between. I don't know how that works.
we would need to have
Okay.
a special meeting to enact it if we're going to before the 1st, which doesn't give us very much time. And,
And maybe it doesn't need to be done by the 1st. I don't know. We just need some clarification here.
okay, so let's, we can look into that after this meeting and see what needs to happen next.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
That was the only new business I was thinking of.
Okay. We're on to discussion of local laws, but maybe we should get through the town business in case people aren't interested in that.
Sure, whatever works
Is that
for you.
Anybody have any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay. Then, let's go to department updates. We'll start with Rob Dolbell. Oh, wait, he's not here. Okay, I'm sure he's out doing something important with the highway department. Miss Marissa? Sorry, did I mess you up?
Okay, good evening, everyone. We had a volunteer from the Sloatsburg Food Pantry stop in Town Hall, and they mentioned they're in desperate need of reusable bags. So just a friendly reminder, anyone that has extras. Deirdre was kind enough to bring in the collection from the Woodlands Clubhouse. The other spots are Village of Tuxedo Park.
Village Hall, Tuxedo Park School, but that won't do any good until September. St. Mary's, I believe, and Sloatsburg Town Hall.
Okay, so any of those?
And town hall here.
And Town Hall, yes.
Oh, and Town Hall,
Ever-
yes.
Yes.
And these are being collected as part of a project set up by a couple of Tuxedo Park School students. And yes, the last delivery got us over 4,000 bags contributed. And as fast as you can bring them down there, they use them and
Good.
so yes, clean out that bag of bags in your closet and bring it to town hall and you can start another one. We will take any bags.
That was mentioned that yes, they are trying to encourage them to return them as well, to be reused once again, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back,
We-
yeah.
Huge collection in
They
there.
may also be true. But,
Orange and Rockland Utilities has a program. They try to reach out to their customers that are on any medical life support. They're asking customers to either enroll or recertify. You call customer service at 877-434-4100. And they can't ensure that you will never have a power outage. However, they will alert you with any bad weather that may be coming up. They also provide you with a personal dedicated phone line that you can call in rather than having to call the main customer number. So it's a good thing to be a part of if it's needed. So for those who have elderly neighbors or family members or friends, please pass that on, because it's a very good program to be a part of if it's needed. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
we don't have any other department heads here. I'd like to welcome Amy Levine, our counsel. Howard is away and maybe it's his at least replacement for this and some other projects we're working on. And I'm guessing he's gonna wake up one day with an AL knife in his back and we'll have a new lawyer. so welcome. There's no supervisor's update. We have the deputy supervisor's update, and I will keep it very short, which is to say, it's been summer, and I've been working behind the scenes, but I don't have anything else to say, so,
Okay,
starting at this end.
so, the water went down the wrong way.
You want to be next, and we'll skip.
No, it's okay. I actually have three things. We started planning with the recreation director and Marissa for a new event to replace Family Fun Day. It's going to be called Tuxedo Fall Festival. And we just reached out to stakeholders for a meeting, which we will schedule shortly. Chamber of Commerce, Dale will be one of the people. The reason for the change is that we wanted to reach people of all ages. And, Family Fun Day, a lot of people felt it was just for little children. And if they didn't have little children, they wouldn't come. So we want everybody to come. So,
Excellent.
so that's one. The second one is that we started working on the code finally for the Parks and Recreation. I sent a draft with notes to all of the people. I started receiving some comments. Jay, I think, was Marissa. So we actually, after those two comments, I revised and I want to send it out to the rest of you guys that haven't, particularly my review with Marissa was really helpful. So I will send out another draft and maybe we can, start talking about it after and then I just finally the camp is in full swing. It's been really great. The kids are having a really good time. The parents are, just saying the kids are having fun. They've, they love the lake and, everything is going fine. And we, because we had such a large number of participants this year, we thought, we want to talk to John Sandak and see if maybe the possibility of starting up some sort of children athletics, maybe Little League or something like that in town, since we are increasing our population. So we're in the process of doing that. So that's it for me.
Excellent. Ms. Deirdre?
Just wanted to give you guys an update. Rob Dolbaum, myself and Michelle went to the New York DOT and talked to them about many of their specifications and a lot of the ideas that everybody has sort of cumulatively come up with. They denied our request for a school safety zone, but they did tell us that we can put up flashing lights before and after, as you enter the school zones, so we can do that. They basically confirmed that we need permits if we want to redo our sidewalks, and they have to then meet New York State standards, which is difficult. And we asked them if we can, they're going to look in to see whether or not the cuts in the sidewalk would meet ADA standards, but it's doubtful. We do not have the option of putting up lighting. We do not have the option of putting up landscaping. The only thing we can do on those sidewalks is replace them if we can meet standards. Which there's most of it we can, there's just certain parts that we can't. And, maybe we can talk to some of the owners of the private property and getting easements or something to make them a little wider to meet those standards. They did say that we could put in an application for the crosswalk and light at Hospital Road, but because we don't really have pedestrian traffic, it would be doubtful that they would approve it. So it was a somewhat discouraging meeting.
Yes.
However, we established a relationship and, hopefully we can continue to talk to them about what things that we can do. We did ask them about the MTA, if they were to put a light at the Village Road, East Village Road, that can we then ask the DOT to put in sidewalks so that they're not going to nowhere, you know, sidewalks and then, you know, possibly to the Historical Society, quote, we called it a welcome center. And that was a possibility, but not a strong one. So basically what we have been saying has, you know, we just wanted to make sure that we weren't, you know, being negative, you know, and make sure that we just all understand what we're dealing with. And so I owe you all a write-up on it, but I just give you a little bit of update on that. So,
Good, so, well, we'll concentrate on things we can do.
well, and the issue is we do one of the things, and they did reinforce this, was if we want to do a lot of things that you guys suggested in terms of bike paths, sidewalks, if we need to incorporate that into our comprehensive plan. And if we do that, then the next time they come into Tuxedo to do paving or anything, they have to abide by the comprehensive plan. So we need to take a look at, and I'm gonna have that verified from them in writing so that we can all decide how we would approach putting it into the comprehensive plan. But, you know, Michelle can speak to it because she talked about the area you talked about, Maria, and they had already denied that. They were really surprised that we were not much more forceful in the new developers in their obligation to give us sidewalks and all those kind of things. So they basically laid it on us.
Yeah, but that land for where the sidewalks would go is
It's
not.
parkland.
It's not the developers to do anything with.
Yes, but they said just getting a code. Yeah. I mean, they basically, you know,
Did you mention, did you mention anything about the fact that we're getting a whole bunch of new people moving in, that?
oh,
you know,
of
Farms
course,
is
they
growing?
knew all about it, and they.
And how about complete street?
We can't do complete streets. Complete streets are lights, landscapes, you know, all those things, wider sidewalks. We don't have the land or the real estate to do that. We can only do it on town-owned streets. So, you know, we can beautify our streets, which we probably should do. But, you know, we can't do anything on the MTA, on the DOT streets because they're either 4 to 5 feet. And so, you know, to put in a light, you need 4 feet. Put in a tree, you need 4 feet. So you need 4 feet plus 5 feet, 9 feet. So, yeah,
Yes, public-private partnerships. All right, well,
yeah. But we should definitely incorporate it into our comprehensive plan because if we do, they have to go along with it.
okay.
So,
I'll figure out how to do that.
yeah, well, you know, it's a process. And, we also talked about the road diet. And the issue with the road diet is they have no plans to finance or do anything like that. However, if we wanted to finance that and we wanted to get engineering plans, they would consider a permit for us to be able to do that. And then we would be able to restripe, 17.
So if we want to do their job for them, they'll let us, if we pay for it?
I don't, correct. I'd say that's probably 80% true.
Okay.
But seeing as everything we've asked them, they've said no, I wouldn't necessarily guarantee that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understood.
So,
Yeah, we might
but
do
I'll
all
write it, I'm gonna
all the
write it.
studies and everything, and then they go, nope.
Nope.
And that's, yeah. They have a rule that to put in a light, you can't have more than 1,100 cars passing within an hour. And they have in 2017, or was it 19, Michelle? 2019?
I think it was 2017, and
Yeah.
I think we asked if they would redo the study or the count.
Because they said we had just that, basically almost 1,100 cars, but they planned 5 years out. So each year, it's a 2% increase, but because we're getting Tuxedo Farms, they would up that. So then the issue is they don't want to put in a light because it would cause a backup. So they have very strict regulations in terms of what they allow and don't allow.
Right.
Welcome to government.
Thanks for the good news.
Yeah, well.
It is what it is.
Michelle, did that basically cover?
Yeah, well, also, a road diet, they don't think it would be successful if you have more than like 1,100 cars within an hour.
But-
And because they project out, they feel that we would be over that. But they did say that there could be an out if the town decides to go ahead anyway.
Right.
Right.
But the main thing is, once again, they said you have to have a plan. And it has to be incorporated into comprehensive plan. We can't just say, we would like complete streets and we're gonna add that to the comprehensive plan, because basically it's already in there. So
That's not specific.
we have to have a plan. Everything comes down to having plans, surveys, plans.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
But it was really good to be up there actually in person, and I couldn't believe it. We sat there for 2 hours looking at everything in great detail on Google Streets, and it was a very educational meeting as to what is required.
Michelle, did they look at the studies that were done in Tuxedo for the Tuxedo Farms permit or anything? Because they did studies, right? They did
They-
traffic studies and things like that. Did they take those into consideration at all, or?
Well, they took those into, what they were looking at for that purpose was a traffic light at the entrance to Tuxedo Farms. So that was sort of the focus there, not the rest of the town. So it was kind of a single focus
I mean,
study.
Sloatsburg has at least as many cars going through their town as we do. How were they able to get, the lights, Oh.
Yeah, there's a difference. That's right. Thank you for bringing that up. There's a difference between being a village and a town. And so the different things apply to villages and towns. And we are a
Oh.
town, even though I tried to push that we were a village, but it didn't work.
That's it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a different conversation.
Yeah, but in a village, I can't remember it exactly, but you can, in a village, they're responsible for keeping up and expanding the sidewalks, and in a town, they're not.
Right, because the towns, I read actually this when I was preparing to be a town council person. It's because towns were considered through places. A town is when you go to one place to another, and the village is where people live.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
that's not the case, obviously,
yeah,
here.
but they did make that distinction, among many other distinctions.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Michelle, do you have anything else that you would like to add or start?
Well,
Sorry, that wasn't actually a report, that was a response to Deirdre.
Yes, well, it was just, adding on, but just wanted to report that we did complete the investment of town funds in Chase CDs. We have 5 million that we placed in a 30-day CD at 4.69%. And 2 million that we placed in a 90-day CD at 4.73%. And at just simple interest with no compounding, after 30 days, our interest earned will be $27,050.
Excellent.
So-
And then those roll over until we tell them to do something else, or?
Well, we have to, they don't automatically roll over, so we decided to do the 30-day most of it in the 30-day because we wanted to get familiar and comfortable with the process of when we have to notify them what to do with it once it matures and what the cash flow looks like at that time and how much we want to roll over and at what maturities. So, this is just sort of the first go at it with the 30-day. There's not that much difference, 4.69% or 4.73, not that much difference. So we thought, let's just see how this all works and the timing and everything. So certainly we're going to renew it. It's just a question of which maturity we choose and how much we choose to renew. And the balance of all the accounts have been transferred to a 2.3% account. So
Good.
that's good too, because we have escrow accounts, we have all kinds of accounts, but they're not really large enough and their cash flow isn't predictable enough to place in a maturity. So we want to get comfortable with the cash flow in those other accounts before we do anything with those.
Great. Good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
All right.
Town board updates are done. On to the minutes. Everybody got a chance to see the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes?
That-
Okay.
that's
Yes.
fine.
Good.
You're fine.
All right, so I make a motion
Okay.
to accept the minutes of the regular monthly town board meeting held on July 10th, 2023. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We did the discussion first, but, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And vouchers. We have our usual list of vouchers, over $5,000, mostly fuel, workers' comp. Our lawyers costing us a lot of money this month. And garbage and recycling. But I would make a motion that the following vouchers, having been audited by the town board, are hereby approved for payment. Claim numbers 201-292-1866 through 201-292-1939. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michelle. Comments, questions? All right then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right. We are now at public comment, general public comment. Mr. McCullough.
Thank you very much. Question or two. Can the town of Tuxedo Police put cones along 17 on weekends? Because the road diet in Sloatsburg screws everything up. And I can't get out to either go north or south without a lot of headaches.
So essentially create a turning lane or,
Do both sides so people can pull out and either go north or south, limit them to one lane for traffic. And if you started at the light at the fire department ambulance corps, I think that would make it real easy.
So you're talking about like a through lane?
yes.
To go north, you have to go through past 2 lanes of traffic. to
Right.
make that turn.
So this way you would only have to go through one?
Right.
Yeah.
And do it the other way also.
So one throughway going north and one throughway going south? Like that? Okay. I understand what you're
I
saying.
don't know the answer to that question,
Yeah,
but I'll
that's a
pass it on
police
to the
question.
chief and we'll see what we can do. All right, that was one. You said you had a couple.
Will we ever revisit the village town situation?
Sure. I'm going to say hesitantly. My understanding, where we left off on this, and I'm gonna defer till Ken gets back, because he's more into this than I am. Part of the issue is that some state agency, I believe the comptroller, did not buy the town board and the village board are the same argument, and said essentially that our town-village theory doesn't hold up. And in order to maintain a village, we would have to establish a village government, so an additional board, and collect village taxes and file certain papers. That's the last I heard, and that's, I may be misunderstanding some of that. But again, when Ken gets back, we'll hammer him about it and see what we can do. Yeah. Anybody else have a better answer?
That's what I remember,
Okay,
yeah.
good, okay. I mean, not good, but anything else?
An answer.
Okay, Amy, got anything to say? Not prepared to answer that question?
I'm curious to know what the town-village theory is.
We attempted to do something that had never been done before, which is to create a town and a village town that is the same, you know? And we thought we could do it, and we went through,
We did do it.
We did do
We
it.
did do
The
it,
town
yeah.
of, the town of Tuxedo originally
Yeah.
consisted of the unincorporated town of Tuxedo and the village of Tuxedo Park. A village was established through the appropriate referendums, et cetera, so that the village of Tuxedo would be all of the village of Tuxedo Park all of the town of Tuxedo that was not the village of Tuxedo Park, which would then make the town of Tuxedo, the village of Tuxedo, and the village of Tuxedo Park combined. Now, other towns have created villages that are contiguous with the borders of the town and created a town village. But because we were not doing that, we were doing a consolidated, I believe was what it was called,
right.
town,
consolidated town,
village. It worked for everybody except for, I believe it was the comptroller.
Was a controller, yeah.
That's,
So basically, like what Monroe has, they have a village of Monroe and a town of Monroe, but you have to have a complete second government that is really expensive for folks who live here. We're a small town.
right, and that was the comptroller's major problem with it.
Was there a reason that you wanted to do a coterminous town-village as opposed to getting rid of the village?
Which village?
To
Get
get
rid
the
of the village
rights,
of
to get a
Tuxedo.
lot of the rights that villages have, like this thing of being able to do, there's a lot of rights that villages have.
It's mostly because of the pipeline,
It was
right?
also, there's a pipeline.
The pipeline was the initiated, right?
That's
I
how we
wasn't
got
involved.
initiated, but then there's other benefits of being a village that we wanted to take advantage of, but they seem pretty much like we're like not, lawful
Well,
at this point.
yes,
Question is, why not expand the existing village to be coterminous with the town? So
Well,
that it would be the same as Monroe has.
that
set
would
up?
be one option, but then
Yeah.
they'd have to have two governments, which is complicated and expensive, and it's confusing. My question was, why not get rid of one of the governments, which would be the village? Get rid of the village and just have the town, but you're saying that
well,
the
there-
pipeline issue is specific to that.
Good luck with that one.
No, so the village of Tuxedo Park is its own
I
thing.
understand. You
But-
can't get rid of, local boundaries. It's not-
Standing, yeah.
Yes.
But the intention was to create a village that was the remainder of the town for those very reasons. And it was orchestrated in such a way that the town village would also be the town board would also be the village board of trustees,
Right.
et cetera. So there would be one government with two hats. And that turned out to be the issue.
Interesting. I'll have to think about this, because
And
I'm familiar with the two hat argument.
so that,
Yeah, well, we thought, I mean, it's never been done in New York before, we thought, Howard and everybody who looked at it thought we possibly could do it, but when it came down to the approval process, in New York State, that's. when
it was approved by
I
everybody.
thought we got
We
approved
got
and then
approved.
it was contested later.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Is that what happened?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, all right, so are we ready for the,
wait a second. Any other public comments in the room? Any public comments in TV land? All right, I'm gonna take that as a no. All right. Now on to our continuing discussion of short-term rentals. And Marissa's gonna, yes, wait, you're pointing to? I'm ready. Marissa's gonna put the.
What page are we on?
I think we,
Hold that thought a second.
I think we went all the way up to,
We got up to the end of 5,
Okay.
which is page 2, I believe. I emailed out earlier this week, Ms. Amy has been assigned to be our counsel to
Right.
get through this piece because, Howard's the evil owner of a short-term rental unit. So he didn't want to, he wanted to recuse himself. And she made some additional comments, which I emailed out. So if you're
Right.
working on the paper from last time, you don't have them with you with this.
I remember, I remember what you wrote.
Okay.
That was about the single-family house that also had a dwelling on the same lot.
That was one of the major questions
Right.
last week, which was whether, wait one second, whether, because we added another section for some definitions. Eligibility, and so it's section 4, which may have been section 3 originally, A, eligible properties and structures,
Right.
single-family detached dwellings per lot, no more than one short-term rental. And the question was where it says, for lots containing more than one structure utilized as a dwelling, one structure may be a short-term rental where the other structure is the permanent residence of the permit holder.
And the question was, why do they have to be a permanent resident for the second one?
Yes and no. The question last week was in section 5 about designated managers, where one of the people who could be nominated as a manager who wasn't a family member would be a non-transient occupant of the lot containing the short-term rental, who resides on the lot as
The occupant's principal
actual
resident.
principal residence. And the question was, how could that be, is that in conflict with the eligibility rules? Because how could you,
Yeah, because you say beforehand that you can have a manager who is basically like a real estate agent.
right. But the question is, how can you have a manager who's a permanent resident who isn't a family member, et cetera, et cetera? And the answer is, the short answer, and Amy, when I say something stupid, jump right in, because you could. There's any number of reasons why you might be a permanent, your family may have a permanent residence there and still have a permanent tenant who might be the person you nominate as manager.
Right, and it is up to the owner to designate who that manager is.
Yes, but this class of possible manager, which is number 3 on that sheet, a number of people said, we don't like that idea.
The non-transient, yeah. I have okay here.
Yeah,
I
not
know,
everybody,
yeah.
some people didn't
Yeah,
like it, some people
I'm
did.
just saying what I, yeah. I did look at it.
So, I don't think we're gonna come to a resolution on this, but it also begs another question, going back to the beginning of eligibility. If I have a property that's got two houses on it, why do I have to live in one if I want to Airbnb the other? Why can't I have, short-term rental? Why can't I have one property that's short-term rental and one dwelling that's short-term rental and one that's long-term rental? We don't require the owner to live on the property for any other class.
Right. Well, my opinion
That's just, it was a question.
is that you should be able to rent both, short term.
Well, not short-term,
Well,
or maybe short-term.
yeah,
Okay.
as the owner, as long as you hit all the other requirements. That would be my opinion, but.
If I could point out, there have been a couple of cases, they're not directly applicable in New York State yet, but the Fifth Circuit and one other circuit in the federal circuit courts. So two of them have now struck down owner occupancy requirements in Airbnb laws. I won't get into the legal analysis of it, but it's basically that it discriminates based on interstate commerce, which is very legalistic. I can explain it, later if anybody wants to understand the reasoning. But, like I said, this doesn't apply in New York yet, but it's something that I've seen happening elsewhere in the country, and it could very well, come up in this jurisdiction at some point soon.
Okay. Well, we should keep thinking on those things, but I think we should probably move ahead with.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a draft ready to put out to the public at the end of tonight, but we were up to chapter 6, operational requirements. And in the interest of brevity, I'm gonna skip over the stuff that where nobody had comments, if that's okay. I mean, put a hand up. So this would now be down to 6.3. Vehicles shall be parked in the designated on-site parking area and not parked on the street unless local parking regulations permit. And then there were additions also that whether there should be a limit on the number of vehicles allowed to be parked and whether screening should be required.
So I sent that link to the article, which contained links to many other articles about different towns in New York State that have been adopting different laws. I mean, the laws seem to vary on every point, just depending on what the particular town felt was appropriate for them. So one town said that the number of cars had to be dependent on the number of bedrooms. Just throwing it out there. That makes a little bit of sense. I don't know how else you come up with a number.
I don't know.
I also liked I know we're trying to move on, but I also liked the comment that you made, Amy, about using the size of the bedroom, like so many square feet per person or something. And that would take care of like not having 4 people in a bedroom, but if you have a little kid, then, there's a family and it's a child that stays with the parent in the same bedroom or whatever, it wouldn't break the rules. I think that makes it more fair as opposed to, I guess if you have an enormous room, then you probably could have 4 people, but for most places, you're gonna not be able to have more than that.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Further
jumping,
down.
that's jumping down a little bit.
Yeah, that's
so-
Oh, sorry, I thought that we had already.
Yeah,
got
okay.
I guess my question is, Amy, how would you be able to regulate, if you have parking on the street, how would you be able to regulate how many people, how many cars you can actually park on the street if there's parking allowed on the street.
Practically, I'm not sure how you go about making sure that, everybody is limited to the number of cars that are limited under the local law, if parking is permitted on the street, because parking spaces on the street are open to anybody.
Right. So it'd be difficult to put into a law that you can only have X amount of people parking on the street based on the number of bedrooms.
I mean, you can certainly try to put it in the law, but I'm not sure how it would be enforceable.
Yeah, so the question is, do we want to put things in the law that's not enforceable?
No, but, I mean, the number of parking spaces is limiting the number of parking spaces on the property.
Yeah, that I understand. I'm talking about on the street.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
Yeah, I don't think you can. That was my point.
Right.
Yeah, you can, I would imagine, in the driveway.
Right,
Kind of thing.
driveway,
Yeah,
parking.
private property, you know,
Yes.
yeah.
You can require off-street parking.
Oh, I don't think we'd want to do that, but
You don't think we would want to require off-street parking?
on-street parking.
No,
Yeah, I don't
We
think we'd
could-
want to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
We could forbid on-street parking. Well, I don't think you actually can do that either.
No, not if
So-
not if it's legal to park. on
Not
the
if it's legal
street.
to park, okay, so. All right, so then we need to look at,
So I had a problem with 4.
4, parties and group gatherings by persons other than short-term rental tenants are not allowed. And then picking up comments and permitted guests was added to that. So you can have a group or a gathering, as long as it's only the rental tenants and permitted guests.
How do you determine who's a permitted guest?
No more than one daytime guest is permitted per 2 overnight occupants, and any daytime guest must depart prior to the start of quiet hours, says number 5.
No more than one guest.
So if you and
So-
I rent a short-term rental.
Then
We
I
can-
can only have Maria over. I can't
Exactly.
have Maria and her partner over.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that seems unreasonable to me.
Okay, so,
I just think it's,
so is there a number? Or it's fair game to meet occupancy of the house? I mean, which we can do, maximum occupancy of any particular
Right.
residence can be defined.
So I think the reason that that was added, or people were, one of the complaints for the Airbnb in Tuxedo is that the reason they gave the police officer, when people were like, there's a lot of people in there, they're like, oh, they're my relatives, they're my cousins, whatever.
right.
So, it was like, oh, you can't tell people you can't be with your cousins, I guess, But, then it turned out not to be that, but, yeah. But I do think that, we should, you can say to somebody, I'm having my friend and her husband come over,
Yeah, but practically thinking, I'm just, if I do a lot of Airbnbs, I know you do too.
right.
And I do a lot of places where I have friends. And so
Right.
I'll have them over for dinner, say.
Right.
I don't see myself, A, asking permission to have a dinner party, and B, saying only one person of the couple and their children can't come.
Right.
So, I'm just practically speaking, I do agree that quiet hours should be quiet hours and parties have to end. I totally agree with that. I just don't know how you can restrict people from having a dinner party. All out blast and having a wedding, that's totally unacceptable, but there's got to be some kind of medium, middle ground.
Okay,
Well, I guess the question is, people are allowed to rent an Airbnb type place, but it would be a real hassle for the neighborhood if people had dinner party, or, a dinner party's not a big deal, but parties, like, every weekend. I mean, that's
Yeah,
unreasonable
that's got to be
for a
some kind of
residential.
reasonable, I get it. I wouldn't want somebody next door to me having a blasting party every weekend either. But on the other hand, one guest per two people.
So then maybe we're up, then it sounds like if the intention is to limit loud parties,
I think that's it.
then we should
Yeah.
limit loud parties, not limit the number of people
That's
beyond
probably
health
the
and
right
safety
Yeah,
answer.
regulations.
That's
I
probably
was
the
gonna
right
say, yeah, and also that what's left there, the guests must depart prior to the start of quiet hour.
Yeah, and I
I
totally
think
agree with that.
that's
Yeah.
reasonable too, right?
Totally. I believe in the quiet hour thing.
Yeah,
Because when I talked to the person who had an issue in her neighborhood, I mean, apparently the parties went on all night.
All night, right,
2:30,
right.
3 o'clock, and it's like, that's ridiculous.
but of course, there's always police enforcement. I mean, if somebody's doing that, you can always, call the police and let them know.
Yeah, it's easier though if you tell them that it's
If
in
they
the,
can do
it's
it,
in their,
yeah.
it's in your lease.
It's in your lease.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see some limit on the number of people I hadn't thought about it before, but somebody just said a wedding. I mean, you could see that somebody might want to do such a thing. So I think that there should be a limit on how many people. And maybe what we have here is too limiting, but we should have a limit, I think. So
Isn't there wouldn't that be up to, and I'm just asking, wouldn't the building inspector on issuing a permit have to say what the limit of people are on that property?
Yes.
Wouldn't
The
there,
building code addresses.
Addresses that?
Certainly addresses, the number of people that can be in the structure. The number of people who can be in the yard isn't,
it's not in the.
it's not in
okay.
the code.
But could we?
But you could limit the number of people to the occupancy capacity of the
Right.
house or something like that.
Yeah, which is probably reasonable, I mean.
Yeah, that would be reasonable.
Yeah.
I just think there has to be some
Yeah, you
number.
can't have 200 people coming over, which my
Right.
children seem to
Well-
do all the time.
I mean, if you had a house on a 10-acre lot someplace, you could have 200 people, you'd never even notice they were there.
No, yeah, I agree.
All right. We'll look for a maximum occupancy kind of limit. All right, term of short-term rental. No short-term rental contract shall be for a term of less than 24 hours was the original language, and several people wanted that extended to 48. That you have to rent it for 2 days
At a minimum.
as
Yeah.
a minimum.
Yeah, I'd even say 3, but
Yeah.
myself,
No, now you're making people pay for
I know,
Monday when
but-
they're not there.
yeah.
Yeah, but two, I think, for most
Yeah,
people
2
who
nights,
go on the
yeah.
weekends or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, 2 persons per bedroom as determined by building inspector, and Amy's comment was perhaps this is another place where we should be looking to building code as
Yeah.
opposed to,
I think
Setting
those
them.
are my notes, is that we should really rely heavily on the building inspector to sort of set, to me,
and then.
But he has to follow a code, right? So we have to tell him what it is.
The building code of, the residential code of the state of New York has jurisdiction over occupancy,
Okay.
or the building code, either one.
It's part of the building code.
Yeah.
New York State,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Residential code is I'm an engineer, don't get me started about code. Well, there's not enough time. We're trying to get this meeting done in a reasonable period of time. Okay, I'm gonna skip over the next bits because for reasons that are not clear to me, the number of people allowed in a house under this is split up into 2 different size lots, but one reads as the other.
What number are we on, what letter?
So we're now down to E, video monitoring.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
That one
yeah.
I had a question on.
Video monitoring of the occupancy. And Basically, it says, where a short-term rental is rented or intended to be rented for transient occupancy, if the manager is not on site, the site shall be digitally monitored by the manager to ensure compliance with the maximum number of allowable guests and visitors. Derive evidence to the building inspector of such compliance should he or she need to investigate complaints. Digital monitoring shall include outdoor cameras adequate in number, location, and view angle to monitor arrival and departures at the property. Will be taken during the times when the property is rented and kept for a minimum of 30 days, and property copies shall be provided to the building inspector upon request. Notice of locations and purpose of the camera shall be provided to renters, as well as disclosure of audio recording, if any. And we put in a line, I put in a line based on comments, that cameras shall be aimed and shielded so the area monitored shall not extend beyond the property line.
Don't think it can by law.
And that is exactly what Amy pointed out.
Yeah.
She said, yeah, you got that one right. Ken asked if the law enforcement can be given access to the videos, and the general feeling, and according to counsel, you might have a Fourth Amendment problem with that. Unless they subpoenaed or they
Yeah.
had cause and asked for copies. I'm good with
If it
that.
were me, and I, and that there was no misbehavior on the part of my renters, I would be resistant to handing over any digital information,
I agree.
and if they were bad behavior, I'd be the first one to give it to them.
Yeah.
I do want to note that although you can't have cameras pointing into your neighbors' backyards, public streets are they're a totally different thing. You can have cameras pointing to the public street. Anything on the street is fair game.
So if your renters were going to be doing public parking on the street, then it probably would be a good idea to have monitors for
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you could,
So some of the
And
complaints that we
speeding.
had was speeding and driving loud. and,
Recklessly.
Recklessly. So that would help that, because then.
Could you
they
pass
have
that along
evidence.
to the police?
I'm not sure that you want to write it into the law.
No, I'm just asking, actually.
If, as a homeowner,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
Oh, I thought you were asking her. Never mind. All right. Section G, exclusive short-term use, which says there shall only be one short-term rental tenant at any time for any property permitted under this chapter. A non-transient owner or tenant and their family residing at the property as their principal residence may continue to occupy the residential lot during the tenancy of the short-term rental tenant, as long as the total occupancy is not excluded.
Exceeded.
Sorry, exceeded, thank you. And Deirdre, you had a comment that this section needed some more clarification.
Yes, I didn't quite understand what this meant. Does this mean that basically I can have people come rent my place and stay with me in my house?
Short-term rental.
Short-term rental.
Yes, you could rent, you could
Like
do a
a rent a
short-term
room.
rental of one room.
I can rent a room.
While you were there.
Okay.
Some people do that.
That's made me question if, I suppose it would be in the lease, say someone's renting your house. Could that renter sublet? And I suppose that's in the lease, but could they, for their own benefit, rent out a room in a house that they're renting?
Oh,
I think so. A non-transient owner or tenant and their family residing at the property as their principal residence may continue to occupy the residential lot. So you could be a renter
renting to other people.
unless your landlord said no, but the law permits it.
Okay, but can we?
Is that
put
what
in-
that's saying?
So it would depend on what's in the lease, for one thing. The landlord and tenant can work these things out to a certain extent. But I believe that New York State law defines a sublet. And I don't remember what it defines it as, so I'll have to get back to you on that. But also, to the extent that subletting is regulated under the New York State landlord and tenant law, I believe that it is probably not something that we can control.
So, okay, let me just ask you this. So I lease to Jay, my house.
Yes.
Jay then leases a room to Maria. Maria misbehaves. Who's responsible?
It depends on what's in the lease and what kind of insurance everyone has.
So as the owner, I could be,
I mean, also, like, what's the damage, like?
well, let's just say she does
I
something.
trashed the place.
Yeah, she trashed the place.
Well, Jay still lives there, doesn't he?
Not after she trashes it, I'm out of here.
Well, he's a short-term renter. So he rents for a month, she trashes the place, they leave.
Well-
And she leaves, you know,
Short-term
I thought he's a long-term renter.
Yeah, short-term rentals are only 10 weeks or
short-term.
less.
Oh, okay, so he could be a long-term renter who can lease.
Yeah, you wouldn't let somebody trash your house, because then you have to live in the bad house. And you probably be held accountable at the end of your rental time
Yeah, try
to
to,
pay back whatever damage your short-term rental
Try to collect on
person
that.
did.
it doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, so, this is,
I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's people in New York City that, because, you know, they do that. Sometimes they rent a room out
Yeah.
of their, you know.
They do, yeah,
not just New York City, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, all over,
All over.
students
I mean, I think that's a
particularly.
common practice.
I think most of the time, though, the short-term rentals are gonna be less than 30 days, which tends to, I believe, don't quote me on this, I'll have to look it up, but I believe that subletting is generally considered something longer than 30 days. So there probably wouldn't be an issue in most cases, but that's not to say that there couldn't be.
okay. On to H, lodging taxes. Permit holder is responsible for collecting and remitting any required taxes. I just brought this up because Ken said whether there could be a town tax.
There-
Effectively is what he was asking.
There is an Orange County occupancy tax. I think there could be a town tax at some point, but the legislature would have to authorize it.
Also, there's gonna be a fee. We're gonna charge a fee for the permit. And
the
it has to
permit.
be renewed yearly.
That's
Yes.
different than a tax, though.
Payment fee is different than a tax. though.
Right, right.
Well, the
Okay.
town, I think, should benefit from the taxes, not, you know, sending it all up to the county. And from, again, I referenced that link I sent you, because it talks like probably what 12 different towns did. And there are local taxes that towns do collect for themselves rather than sending it off to the county.
Some towns do have authorization specifically, but it has to be authorized by the legislature. The occupancy tax in most places is done by the county. I'm not familiar with Orange County's occupancy tax law, but I in another county where I used to work, the occupancy tax was actually, the county collected it all, and then it was divided between the municipalities based on, I mean, there was one city, so the city got a little bit more, but then all the towns took a pro rata share of the occupancy tax based on their population.
Well, that's it, you know, when Orange County divides up the taxes, Port Jervis, Middletown, and Newburgh get the lion's share, and then the rest gets divided up, as you say, by population, and we're kind of low on the population number. So I think that the town should be benefiting, and maybe we just have to do some research with the county as to how that can get done. But I think we should definitely benefit directly.
Okay.
Can are you making notes on that, or should I'll just add that? Can we all add
I'm
notes?
making notes, but I would say it's probably better if everybody makes notes. That way if I miss something, it doesn't.
So who would do that? Would that be you, Amy? You would find out whether or not we would be able to glean some of the tax revenue?
I do not know how Orange County, I don't know what they do with their occupancy taxes or how they divide it, how they split it up. I can certainly look into it. The occupancy tax laws, I mean, if you Google Orange County occupancy tax, you'll find all the information on it. Also in terms of, people who are renting, they have to sign up for the occupancy tax and everything. I can look into it and get back to everyone. I am fairly sure that in order for the town to have its own occupancy tax, it would need legislation from the state. It's just the way that occupancy tax works in New York.
Okay, but it'd still be good to know what percentage we would get, the town would get from a tax.
Well, also, there's some towns, Wilmington and I forget the other town in New York that collect the tax and put it towards a specific use. And like, for instance, Wilmington subsidizes housing costs for people because the short-term rentals in that town were making the affordability of housing too high for people who work there, live and work in that town. So if we can do it, we would have to think what the purpose was, it would be good to have it be a purpose to either subsidize housing or some other purpose. Another town collected the tax and put it towards improving tourism in the town. That makes probably sense for us, because how would you set up a department to subsidize housing costs for people? We just don't have the kind of government that could have a specific department, but we could collect the tax and put it towards improving Powerhouse Park or other tourism projects that we have. So that's what other towns have done in New York.
Okay.
Again,
So-
Amy, I'll send you that link that has all that information.
Excellent. Not the same as taxes, but fees, section J, it talks about fire safety and inspections, which is fine. And both Michelle and Ken brought up the fact that we got to figure out what the fees need to be, which we're obviously not doing this evening, but.
But the fees, just like in the other things, right, it wouldn't be part of this particular law, or it would be? It'd be a fee schedule like we do with the other things?
Exactly. We identify categories in the law, we set the fees by resolution so that we can
Right.
change it without changing the law. All right.
L, I think is the next.
L is the next one, which is safe
Yeah.
access, and people were concerned about sufficient lighting in all outdoor recreational areas. And also I put in that all outdoor lighting shall conform to the requirements of the zoning regulations, because dark sky compliant, et cetera,
Right.
so. Okay. And then, sorry, M is compliance inspections, which basically says the building official, the code enforcement officer, or duly authorized deputy within, can make inspections within 24 hours of a request. a complaint.
Where are we? I'm sorry.
We are in M of that section, right below the part
Oh,
about
this one,
lighting.
okay.
And Ken asked the question of who is a duly authorized representative, and that would be the building inspector
inspector.
or the
Code enforcement.
or the code enforcement officer,
Isn't
or
that-
like with any other inspection, the code enforcement officer can designate other people who can be engineers or other people.
Oh,
In-
okay.
In our instance, it would be the building official.
Okay.
That's all we got. All right, it is 8:30. We've been at this for 40-something minutes. We just got to section 7. It is sort of my theory that this half hour at a time is kind of nice, but maybe we should schedule a workshop to just
Bang it out.
bang it out?
If I could just go back to the occupancy tax, I looked it up and it goes to Orange County's general fund.
And we don't get
We
any,
get nothing. Well,
Okay.
Whatever we get from Orange County.
Yeah.
The next question would be, what would we have to do to set up our own
Right.
local tax, which is gonna be a different law than this one, so. Do we want to schedule a meeting now? Do we want to, we have 3 weeks until the next town board meeting, because the first Monday of August is the 7th.
7th.
So it'll be 3 weeks until our next town board meeting. I would pick a Monday because I already can never remember which Monday I'm coming here, so all my Mondays are open. But,
I think maybe we can do it the Monday of the 7th.
I'm not here.
Oh,
I'm away, but I mean, you certainly.
Me too.
oh, and I won't be here the 14th, but I can go, I mean, I'm on vacation, but I can be, just escape May, so I can log in and be online. But that's when I'm on vacation,
For the 14th. Yeah, that's a regular scheduled.
right?
So maybe we should try to do it before
No.
then? Are you around before then?
Yes,
Yeah.
a workshop is still a meeting. So 3 of us have to be in a room together. But that leaves 2 who can't. And Ken is not back until, he said 2 weeks, so that would put him at the, I mean, I think it's beneficial if we can all be in the room together, so that would be, or at least virtually. Does the 14th work for you, Michelle?
the 14th is a
14th.
regular town
That's a-
meeting though.
Oh.
It's a regular meeting.
Well, you want to keep it at the regular meeting?
And then we also, at that point, I'm hoping that we can start looking at the other code for the recreation, but can we just try to do applications? There's not that much.
I'm perfectly happy to stay here all night, but I might get a nasty phone call from somebody. All right, that's fine. Sure, well, at least go to, sure, applications.
It doesn't seem like we have a lot, you know.
We don't have a lot, so if we go, so we'll start with number 7, go through applications. The first one is, item 5, which is, the application goes to the building inspector, a number of things. The applicant may appeal a determination of the building inspector on this matter to the town board. And Ken says, why is it the town board? It seems like this would be better going to either the planning board or the BZA. I would say BZA, because they're the people who would deal with appeals.
What are they appealing? They're appealing the idea that their survey is not accepted?
Yes.
My comment here was mostly that I saw throughout that there were places where the planning board was used and the town board was used. And, I feel like it's worth thinking about it and figuring out a consistent system, as opposed to, having different boards doing similar functions.
I mean, it's my feeling that this is essentially planning board. The review of applications
Yeah.
is essentially building inspector and planning board stuff, and that's where it should live.
I think it's, why isn't the appeal not going to the Board of Zone,
I think appeals for anything should then go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, that's,
as
Yeah.
opposed to the town board?
as opposed to the town board.
Yeah,
I mean, the town board sets the rules, but we expect the appointed boards are there to
yeah.
do the enforcement.
I agree, it should be the ZBA.
Yeah,
For appeals,
For the
Yes.
appeal that's mentioned in this number 5.
I may appeal this matter to the, I think it should be ZBA.
okay, good. And then,
Yeah, my notes here say, after that, that a lot of this stuff I thought was excessive. A site plan that's drawn by a prepared New York State license.
yeah, well, what, you trying to take away my business?
No,
Oh.
I'm just saying, you know, I mean, having a survey and then you have to have a floor plan drawn by a architect
Right.
in order to rent a room?
Well,
It sounds a little excessive to me.
there is in the next clause of this number 6, the applicant may elect to provide a hand-drawn markup of the certified property survey along with approximate hand-drawn schematic floor plans, as long as the building inspector finds upon field inspection that the drawings are legible
okay.
and reasonably portray
missed that.
existing and proposed conditions.
Yeah.
I
And,
missed that, so.
okay,
Yeah,
so I think
so I'm good.
you're good.
Yeah.
All right, and again, there's
That's
another.
reasonable. I just thought getting a licensed person to come in and was excessive.
Part A, right at the top of this section, also says that the permit, the different types of information can be waived.
Unless,
That's it?
yes. It's, sorry, right?
I'm not sure you want it to be the town board.
Unless waived by the town board upon appeal. I think any place it says appeal, it should go to
To
the
the-
BZA, and any place it doesn't say.
I'm not sure that you want this to be the town board doing a waiver. It seems like planning board type of thing.
Yeah.
Rather than
I agree.
town
Or
board,
building.
And you
but,
know, and the thing is like,
but
if
it does say
you,
it can be waived.
you know, if you are a
Okay, thank
homeowner, you already gone through all these, you know, you have all of those things for your house, right?
Oh, I don't
If
have a
you have a
floor
house
plan.
inspection, you don't have,
You may
No,
not have a house, may not have a floor plan,
I don't have
you
a floor
may
plan.
not have a survey, although,
You could probably get one from the
yeah,
building department.
if it exists, let me
Yeah.
tell you, if you're ever gonna buy a house, get your own survey, just,
Yeah.
that's
I
all I'm gonna
always-
say.
yeah.
I'm not even doing
I
that.
remember doing, I mean, I remember us doing that.
Okay, but we're good with this one?
Yep,
All right. On this site plan is location of off-street parking spots, and I put in the proposed method for screening the parking. We're trying to keep parking from not being overly visible to the street and the neighbors, if people
well,
are parking on
I think it
site.
should go back to, it should be restricted to, off-street parking should be restricted to what is lawful.
Right.
So whatever,
Off-street, yes,
you know, so whatever the on-street parking is, should be based on whether or not there's legal parking spaces on the street.
yes, this
And
is
then
for off-street.
Off-street parking should be, you know, I guess, I wonder how you would limit that.
Do we have a code for that?
Yes and no. The building code gives a required number of parking spaces per square footage of, or use, right? So, for example, hotels have to have 1 parking space per room plus another certain number. So, that can go 2 ways. There can be a minimum number of parking spaces required, 1 parking space per bedroom, for example. And that could be required to be off-street parking. You can't keep people from parking on the street if parking is legal there.
Right.
So that actually goes into a section above where we have to come up with that number of parking spaces required. But the question then is, are we gonna require that parking be screened in some way?
I don't know how you can screen that, really. I mean, say somebody has a party, again, you have 2 cars, you know, you have 2 people who have 2 cars, and then you have 6 people come over, and they have cars. What are you gonna say? Oh, you can't park here because we're only allowing 1 per bedroom? And who's gonna monitor that? Who's gonna enforce that? I mean, it should be reasonable to be enforced.
Yep,
As long
okay.
as they're not there at
As
1
long as
o'clock
they're
in the
not
morning.
there after quiet hours, and as
There-
long as they're not parking, spilling over into illegally parking on the street.
Okay, then we don't have to do it.
I mean, when our neighbors have parties, their cars sometimes overflow into, you know, other people's houses, because that's the way it is. But
Some
it
owners
happens
that's
once in
okay
a
with
while,
that.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I thought the location and height of proposed fences, berms, and landscape planting buffers was also a little excessive for short-term.
Well, this is, if you're going to be setting up your property as a short-term rental property.
But I'm not setting it up. I'm just going away for a week and I want to rent I'm just saying, just for the week.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do that, would you go through the whole process? Would, or you or anybody, go through a whole thing of, you know, whatever we decide, $500 permit fee, you know, it's a process. I'm wondering if people would do that if they're only planning to rent it out for a week while they're away on vacation.
Well,
I don't
let's
know.
say a
I'm
month.
just throwing
Let's
it
say a
out
month.
there.
I'm gonna make 50 grand for the month,
If you're gonna rent out your house for a month or a week,
making that up.
then
You need to have a permit.
you need to have a permit.
Yeah,
'Cause
okay.
then
going
if
to
you do
have a
it, you'll
permit.
be illegally, according to after this law goes into.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
So-
tree lines and wooded areas, and the diameter of the breast height of individual trees,
Okay,
I think that's excessive, that's all I'm saying.
okay, so,
I don't think it's excessive to have a survey, I don't think it's excessive to have a floor plan.
okay,
I don't think it's excessive to say, yeah, you can't stay past 9 o'clock at night. I think all that's reasonable. But when you start telling me that I have to tell you where my tree line is, I think that that's getting over the top.
well, I mean, tree line would be on a survey anyway.
It would?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Where the woods start?
But not the tree line.
Oh, I'm sorry, I understand, not
Not the height of the
Not
tree.
the height of the
Right,
trees.
yeah.
The demarcation of where the woods
Oh,
start.
yeah, okay, but that's on the survey. I'm talking
Yes.
about tree line and fences and how high is the
Well-
fence and
I mean,
where's the
that,
berm?
that would be on the survey as well.
Do you think I'm curious what the purpose of all of, you know, B, C, and D are, and even E,
Okay, so.
F?
it's the
I'm just
location of-
wondering,
This is basically planning board stuff, right? So A is the location of parking spots. B is the location of any yard or spaces whose access will be restricted to short-term tenants.
okay,
So-
those two make sense, okay.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
All right. C, the location and heights of proposed or existing fences, berms, and landscape planting buffers. So I'm putting in my plan to set up my short-term rental. This is where I'm putting in the screening, right? The approximate tree line of wooded areas or location diameter of individual trees providing substantial screening to adjacent residences or other land uses.
It's a little excessive.
Okay.
So I'm maybe what the purpose of putting these things in is to make sure that there is screening from neighbors, that there are fences
But it
and
isn't.
berms.
Well,
It isn't,
Well, I'm
though.
just
It's not saying
wondering,
you
yeah.
have to have that. It's saying just have to tell everybody where it is. It's not saying that you should have privacy, you know, from your neighbors. So that's why I think it's excessive. If you want to say you have to be, you have to be at least 6 feet away from your kitchen window to their bathroom, has to be at least 6 feet. That's a restriction. This is not a
that's already in
restriction.
the zoning.
Yeah, that's in the zoning, but this is just,
Okay, so,
to me, it's not restrictive in any way. It's just basically telling people that you want to know, you know, things that are, I don't know, I just find it excessive.
Well, maybe we want to consider requiring these buffers from neighbors.
And that's a different issue.
Right,
You
exactly.
know, that's all
But
I'm
ma-
saying, you know, and I can understand saying that. But I don't think that this does that job. That's my point.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see, maybe not in this section, but somewhere else saying that that there needs to be these buffer zones to help out the neighbors. Or to minimize the disturbance on adjacent residences. So I don't mind that. I don't mind saying there has to be a buffer. But I'm not sure it belongs here.
Okay. I'm not sure where it would go.
Yeah, I don't know either. Maybe we just have to say,
You don't-
well,
you
this
have to
is
make-
all part of the permit application, so I guess it is in this general application section. But maybe it should say that the following are required. And
Well, I
decide
mean, you
how
can't,
much we want to require.
it's hard to require things because they have to be appropriate to the lot and the layout and all the rest of it. You can't require somebody to put up a berm if there isn't room on their property for a berm.
Right.
Right,
The
right.
premise is that all of this, the premise of this all goes to the building inspector for review and to the planning board for review. I mean, essentially, this is setting up the application for what is effectively a special permit for the use of this site.
Could you though, put something in here that would leave it to the discretion of the building inspector that it was a reasonable level of privacy for neighbors?
Yeah, I agree, like
Just, you know,
that somewhere we say
could you do that?
screening from neighbors, yeah. But we don't have to say exactly that you have to have a berm and trees.
Yeah, but it's reasonable.
Right,
Amy?
So this actually is in the legislative intent, I think, is where this already exists, right? These are the things that have to be in the application so that the planning board can consider the application. If we go back to section 1D, the chapter is intended to protect the health and safety of town residents and visitors to prevent to the greatest extent practical public safety risks, including but not limited to noise, trash, traffic, parking.
Okay, so that's there.
So that's there.
That's really
One of the
there.
things that we're doing
Okay.
is protecting the neighbors.
Yeah.
Now, we may want to go back to this section.
Bump it up a little bit.
And more explicitly.
Yeah,
Say, screening.
well, it
from-
has to be cleared by the building inspector to make sure that it's all reasonable.
And or planning board.
Yeah,
Right. And so that's why all of these items are.
excessive.
Are.
Yeah, they're just basically regurgitating what's already in the survey too.
Well, it's making sure it's on the survey, right? Because I could just get a
Oh,
property
okay.
boundary survey.
Okay.
And what this is saying is, when you bring in your application, these are the things that need to be on there so that the planning board or the building official can determine if you're meeting the requirements to protect your neighbors.
that makes sense. It's maybe somewhere we should say that specifically. I mean, you say it is in the legislative intent, but
Yeah, we probably
Maybe-
have to be a little bit more specific in that section that Jay just outlined. that
yeah.
The building inspector has to sign off on that, or the planning board has to sign off on it.
Well, that's in the that procedure is in the application section.
Yeah,
So, but the thing that we might need to make more explicit is that we expect a greater level of privacy or screening.
respect
on-
and privacy.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And would there be another, Marissa, if you could scroll to the top of this application section, like a sentence somewhere where we start off this whole application thing?
Applicant shall submit an application. Right there.
Okay,
A.
but maybe a sentence right there.
No, this is this one, here. Okay, thank you.
Would the first sentence say, could it say something like that? That the building inspector, in accordance with the provision of this section, which includes ensuring privacy of neighbors. Just adding that first sentence.
Sounds more like a planning board function.
If we were to write it in here, we'd have to put it in as a planning board function.
I mean, you don't have to. You can make the building inspector the person who,
We don't want to unnecessarily bog down the planning board on,
Stand by.
maybe you let the building inspector waive.
Here we go. It's in 8,
Uh,
procedure
in that
for
case.
first permit issuance. You get the whole application to the building inspector. The building inspector reviews it for application for compliance with the requirements. And then upon confirmation of a complete application, the building inspector shall, once the building inspector determines it's a complete application and make sure it meets building code and fire code, okay? Then the building inspector shall forward the application to the town planning board. And then the planning board shall schedule a public hearing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
oh, so they, okay, so there is a public hearing so that neighbors who have an issue can come forward and say,
Yes.
I don't want this.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't get to veto it, but they can.
Yeah, but they can say,
They can-
and they can have a reasonable argument,
Right, they can
like, you know,
say that, I can see
Yeah.
right into their bedroom windows or
Right.
whatever.
right.
Now, when I was looking through what other towns in New York do, this one town, I think it's a bit extreme, but it said that you have to prove that you've owned the property for 3 years before you can start renting out on a short-term basis.
That's
So-
probably not legal, I'm gonna guess.
Yeah,
Well,
I would wonder.
It
if that-
it is a law in a town, and to me, that seems extreme, but I think the intent of that was to make sure that people weren't buying up properties
Well, we're
for the
only allowing
specific purpose of
one,
doing this.
we're only allowing one and then the second one and that's it.
But
You're
we're
not
also
allowed to
not
have
allowing
more than two.
Full-time, we're not allowing it to be 365
Right.
days a year, so that there's
Right.
restricted, so they can't make a, quote, ongoing business out of it.
Yeah.
Can't make
Right,
a
I
hotel.
think that was the
Yeah,
intent,
I
but,
think
you know, even.
restricting the
that-
number of days you can rent it does a better job at that than saying you have to own it for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
And there's probably a due process problem there,
Yeah, I mean, if I owned something for 2 years and I wanted to
Equal
rent it out and you
protection.
told me I couldn't,
one of those things.
I'd be really annoyed at that.
I think it's
Well,
also a
as
fair
on- only
housing
on a
act
short-
issue.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what was that, Amy?
I can look it up and get back to you guys, but I think
Okay.
I think it's a Fair Housing Act issue as well as the due process.
I mean, certainly you can rent your house out, I would think, even in this town that has that restriction. For a long-term rental, it's just when it comes to this short-term rental process.
Yeah.
Also, I was wondering, it just made me think that all these restrictions on number of days could we say in a general business zone or tourism zone that those limitations don't apply?
Except for most of the places are residential.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that,
It's not a hotel.
right, So,
Right, but I mean, in a general business zone or a tourism business zone, could we say that these restrictions don't apply? And because maybe we want there to be more opportunities for people to stay in town, but only if it's in a general business zone.
Well, what would be an example of that? Like Tuxedo Square?
Yeah, or even
Tuxedo Square is
Store
awful.
Road.
Right.
Store Road is multi-use.
so Store Road is multi-use.
There's no houses.
Yeah, there's two
So-
houses
so-
with
so-
apartments.
Um,
There's an ongoing Airbnb in one of those houses
Yeah.
right now.
okay.
Right now.
So we
So
have
they
to.
would be allowed to sort of do it all the time.
Okay, I mean, well, we could certainly.
I'm just-
That's because of the zone, because
We-
they're zoned for that, you know, so it wouldn't be fair to have them zoned the same way you would, say, Clinton Woods.
Well,
I'm
nobody,
just-
nobody is zoned for short-term rentals right now.
No, but I'm
Okay,
saying
so-
you're making a distinction between a purely residential neighborhood and
Yes.
what those what those restrictions are versus an area where it's zoned for commercial use. So you could technically buy a house on Store Road and make it an Airbnb year-round. But if you were to apply the short-term rental as it exists, to Michelle's point, without having any zoning delineations, then they couldn't do that.
Understood. Okay,
So I think that's a good point.
yeah, so good, so then we need to look at, we need to go back and look at what zones we're gonna allow this in,
Right,
right? Because one of the things that we had talked about, you were here.
before my time, yeah,
Was that maybe we didn't want to allow this use in, say, R4, right? In,
Right.
you know, because of the impacts on the neighbors.
right,
But we didn't talk about putting them into
other
like
zones.
mixed use,
And
yes.
if you put it in other zones, you have more of an argument to say that you could restrict it, to me, you would think, that you would be able to restrict it in other zones, because you can go over here.
Right.
So then I would say that we should revisit, not tonight, the question of which zones and
And
if
what
different zones should have
have
different rules
Rules.
about
Yeah,
some of these things.
yeah.
Okay. It's now 9:00 and somebody told me they wanted to go home
I'm
at 9
sorry,
o'clock.
I'm fading.
Yeah, which is fine. I think that we got,
Actually, we only have one thing left.
oh,
We
you're
only
starting to
have
sound like me.
Enforcement procedures, that's it. We have, oh no, we have two, false information. I mean, the next ones are really short. So we
Okay.
can do it, I mean, I think we can do it in the next meeting,
Well, let's
unless we.
do it in the next 5 minutes, and then I'll get a draft put together for the next
Perfect,
meeting.
okay.
that
Yeah,
we can
which
actually
is so
present.
short.
All right,
Everything else is like a page left.
okay, so, false information, Ken questions how this is determined, by what authority, on what evidence?
Where are we? I'm sorry.
Sorry, 10,
10-10.
sorry, yeah,
Okay, if you don't mind waiting for Marissa to get there. Oh, okay.
I mean, it basically says, any false information or misrepresentation means that,
Yeah,
You're
that's,
gonna
their
have problems.
application is revoked.
right. And Ken made a comment that was basically, who determines this? On what evidence? And I mean, the answer is, I don't know. The answer is, the building official, I would guess the building official discovers something that wasn't true.
Well, for example, in the one.
But who's the
instance,
enforcer?
Airbnb, the person said, oh, these are all family members or whatever, but then when the police was doing the investigation, they found receipts that showed that that wasn't the case, that
Well,
people
how-
lived in different places and, whatever, had different names from what they were told that they had and stuff. So that would have been misrepresentation.
Yeah.
Or a parent rents stuff and their kids show up.
Right,
I
right.
think
And
that,
I mean, that
Ah.
to me is, that to me is the problem,
Right.
18-year-olds come and have a parte.
Well, that's
That's
a
misrepresent-
that's a different enforcement issue. This is
Oh, no, they're
this is- this-
misinterpreting the fact that they are renting and they're not there.
Right.
Their
This-
kids are really the renters.
But you're right, but this is talking about misrepresentation
applicant.
in the application by the owner.
Oh, by the owner, okay. I missed that, sorry.
I mean, I think the short answer to this is like any other,
Yeah,
misrepresentation
but
in
who is the enforcer here?
building
Is
official.
The building enforcer. They're the ones who can revoke their their permit.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Yes, this is effectively,
Okay.
okay.
And then renewal,
Um,
that's it.
That's it. And then enforcement procedures, enforcement procedures upon receipt of complaint or observations of noncompliance, et cetera, the building official can inspect. And Deirdre had a comment, not to single you out, just saying
That's
it's
all right.
yours. Suggests that the receipt of 2 complaints shall be sufficient reason to revoke a permit. And our counsel explains that complaints don't count. It has to be violations. People can
But a
complain.
violation, but a complaint could be, let me just clarify what I think this is.
Okay.
So a complaint is that somebody was having a party past quiet hours.
Yes.
Is that a violation?
If the police came and they found the people there, yeah,
So the
yes.
police have to come.
Well, or some.
So does it, what is the procedure to make it a violation versus a complaint?
I mean, I think the building inspector probably has to make a determination that the complaint is credible, that it happened, so.
Okay,
Right.
so I call up and I say the guy next door to me is still having a party and it's past quiet hours.
Yeah, but what if you just really don't like your neighbor, and so you always
That's my
call the
point.
building
Yeah,
inspector?
and I just keep
and-
doing it because I don't want them to have a short-term rental.
Yeah,
So the building inspector sort of has to make sure that it's valid?
I mean, somebody should be, verifying the
Okay.
complaints.
All
So
right.
if it was if it was a noise complaint, it wouldn't be the building inspector probably.
It would be the
police,
yeah.
but,
Yeah,
you know,
but it has to be okay.
there
But
has
the
to
building inspector could then see the call logs and, verify that, there was a complaint.
Or talk to the
came.
police to make sure.
No, so there are cameras so they can see,
Yeah, also
what
cameras.
Yeah.
what's going on outside.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna say as a next step, I'm gonna suggest. I think we've gone through all this stuff. I would ask that board members who are going through this and had another thought or something like that, send it to me. I will
Okay.
work with Amy to get a final draft put together for the next meeting, which is the 14th. I'll get it out before that, so people have a chance to look at it, with hopes that we will look at it and go, yeah, this is right.
And this C is really important because this is exactly what, we're going through all of this.
I'm sorry.
Operating a short-term rental without a valid permit is prohibited. Evidence of operation may include advertising, guest testimony, online reviews, rental agreements, receipts, reports of transient vehicles not owned by the property, and all of that stuff. So this is the reason right now, because we don't have that law, people can just say, oh, it's my relatives visiting, whatever,
Right.
even though it's advertised as an Airbnb. But with this, it gives us the teeth that we need to say, hey,
Right.
they're following the rules.
Okay.
Yes.
See, we did it.
Okay.
All right, so if people can get me additional comments between now and, a week from now, so that I have a week to put it together, so you
Okay.
have a week to review it, I will work with Amy to get a draft put together. And if all goes,
Well, I feel pretty comfortable if you want to get a draft and we could read it again, because
Yeah.
yeah,
I
okay.
think it'd
And
be
and
easier
I think
to do
people are
that.
dying, people at home, you guys
Yeah,
are
no-
really wanting to see what
See
it
what
looks
the,
like.
yeah, I'd rather see a draft at this point.
No, that's my
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Give me a draft, so
Yeah.
that we have it for, in a
Next time.
perfect world, at the next meeting, we'll be
Okay.
able to do a final read and set a
Execute.
public hearing.
Okay, good.
And all of that.
All right.
My point was, if you suddenly wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, I meant to say, go ahead and send it.
Okay.
All right, is there any other stuff? Michelle, you got any last minute
No, I just want to take another look at it. Can you send me that draft with Amy's comments? I tried to get it and I think it was buried in all the email strings, so I didn't. If you could just
Yes.
send it directly.
I will send it again.
Thank you, Amy,
No
for
problem.
Thank you.
adding to.
Thank you.
Okay, in that case, I hate to do it. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I second that.
Oh, I asked for a motion, but that's
Oh,
fine.
sorry.
Okay, good. It's all right. You're good.
I second that.
All in favor?
I,
Thank you.
Thank you very
wait,
much.
these are only,
Oh, yes, everybody here in the room has to sign the vouchers.
Okay.
and you have to sign thank you letters to